Are present this evening from the committee. John Wish has been excused. Number 2 on my agenda is the chairman's comments. I would request that we have a moment of silence, people. For those that are deceased, those that were injured and emotionally changed because of the happening and shooting in Georgia. May we take a moment of silence, please? Thank you. Next up on my list, I usually have a youth and governance statement, but I'm missing both of my high school youth and governance. So I will move on to public comments. I have 2 individuals that would like to make public comments. I'd like to tell you ahead of time that your comments, we will all be listening, and they are 3 minutes, please. I have the Vice Chair Miller, who will be advising you of when 30 seconds is left. First up on my list, I have Mr. Harry Schultz. Could you please state your address, please, and come on up to the table to state your comments. Good evening, Mr. Schultz.
Good evening. Yeah, my name is Harry Schultz. I live at 539 Newman Road in Mount Pleasant. And I'm here to speak against the 0.5% sales tax increase. A sales tax is an unfair and regressive tax. And what makes it unfair and regressive is low-income people pay a higher percentage of their income for this sales tax than high-income people do. You got some items that are exempt from the sales tax, but it's still very unfair and regressive. Property taxes are regressive also, but they are less regressive, since high-income people usually have a more expensive property. The bottom line is Racine County wants to spend more of taxpayers' money. They hope no one will notice the sales tax increase. And using part of the sales tax to reduce property tax is kind of like taking from the poor and giving to the rich. So I say no to a sales tax increase. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up, please, I have Kim Dariaz. Thank you, Kim. I was hesitant.
So I'm here to talk in support of contributions towards the Browns Lake dredging project. As the Browns Lake Sanitary District was created about 50 years ago, and since then, the members of it have supported the entire health of the lake for 50 years without outside assistance. They've provided the sanitary district, the sewer service, weed cutting, weed collection, fish stocking. They've rebuilt the dam. They have created the Browns Lake Advisory Committee and the Dredging Committee. And so Racine County has a large presence at Fisher Park, and a very valuable park. And the public waters of Browns Lake obviously belong to everyone, and everyone should contribute to help keep it healthy and viable as a recreational resource in Racine County. After 10,000 years, the sediment has naturally built up in the bottom, and it's to the depth of several feet in quite a few areas. So they've been working on this for decades, and now they have a plan, they have DNR approval, they have a schedule, and now they're on the funding part. The town of Burlington has already approved their 25% of the funding at $2.5 million, and we're very grateful for that. And we are asking for the same amount from Racine County. And the other 50% will be taken by the Browns Lake Sanitary District and shoreland owners, which shoreland owners are in both of those categories. They're actually in all four categories. So we are, people on the shore and people in the sanitary district will definitely be paying their share, if not more. So we're contributing substantially to this project also. Over Labor Day weekend, I saw kayakers, paddleboarders, skiers, fishermen, tubers, sailing regatta. At the park, they have the Browns Lake Aqueduct Show, which is free to the public every week. They have adaptive ski lessons, which are also free. They have the Venetian Fest in July. And this is all at the county park, these items. And they have the Venetian Fest, which is also free to the public with fireworks. Thanks. With fireworks and something else, but I can't remember right now. But it's a very beloved event and a lot of people come to that. The park is usually full on that day and many other days during the year. So basically, we would appreciate as much help as you could give to this very important project, because a lot of the areas now are so deep with sediment. It's hard to boat, it's hard to swim, it's hard for fish to reproduce, and it's at a critical stage right now. The lake is still usable and enjoyed by many, but we're reaching a tipping point. And with approvals already done, this is the time. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak? Seeing none, hearing no voices, I will move on. Thank you to my next agenda item.
Mr. Chairman?
Supervisor Miller.
Yeah, since our youth and governance are here, perhaps one of them could read the explanatory statement of how they operate.
Thank you, Supervisor Miller. As they pull out their trusty iPhones to look what needs to be read. I think Juliana?
Yeah.
Thank you. Could you hit your mic on, please?
Right button.
Okay. Hello, we are members of the Racine County Youth and Government Program, and we will be participating in tonight's meeting. This program serves to empower youth in Racine County by encouraging us to participate in local government. We have agreed to abide by the applicable standards of conduct that would govern any elected county board member. While we are encouraged to participate and allowed to have a non-binding advisory vote on matters before the committee, all formal action taken by this committee will be based solely on the binding votes made by the county board supervisors.
Thank you, Juliana. Nice job. Number 4, approval of the minutes from August 21, 2024. I need a motion from the committee.
So move. Second.
I have a first and a second. Is there any discussion in regards to the minutes? Hearing none. Youth and governance, all in favor? Committee, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing no nays and all ayes, I have approval of the minutes from August 21st, 2024. Next up, we have the Racine County Economic Development Corporation. Andrea, in regards to the status of Racine County's matching grant fund program, second quarter 2024, action of our committee only. Welcome, Andrea.
Thank you.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you. Hello, everybody. I'm presenting the Q2 Racine Matching Grant Program report. First, a couple pages just gives you an overview of the background on this program. We carried over 10,656 from 2023. We were allocated 75,000, which gave us a total of 85,656. And we have approved out, as of this report, 17,856 was left over. But since then, we've actually approved it all out. So you can see a breakdown there of the type of businesses that we've helped with this program. 5 manufacturers, 2 veteran-owned, 10 women-owned, ethnic minority. And then I also give you a breakdown of the locations. So 2 in Burlington, 5 for the city of Racine, 3 in Mount Pleasant, 5 in Waterford. The next few pages give you just a breakdown of the ethnic minority groups that we've helped over the years. And in conclusion of this report, we're pleased to say that we've allocated out all of the funds in approvals, and we do have a few more applications that we weren't able to serve. So I'm always here to advocate for more funds for the program, if not for 2024, for 2025. And if anybody wants to see, there's a table after the report for the type of businesses that we have helped so far this year.
Thank you for your update for the second quarter, correct? Yeah, second quarter. Any questions from the committee here? Supervisor Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Andrea. For those who might be here or watching online, this document is available online under the Finance Committee meeting packet. So if anyone wants to see those details. And I would like to say I'm really pleased to see that we have 2 veteran-owned businesses in this report. And perhaps in the future, you could add that as a category for the ongoing report. I think that would be helpful for the committee. But thank you for the, really working hard and working to get a broad range of businesses assistance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair. Any other questions or discussion from the committee? I do have something I need to ask. On page 5-3, one ongoing goal of the program has been job creation, and we are pleased to report that 15 small businesses approved and will add 116 full-time equivalent employees to the companies. That is great news. Can I ask you what period of time that is from?
Well, what we do is we take the job numbers from the time of application and then we follow up a year later after. So that'll tell us. So this is actually time of application, and then we'll know. I can report out. I usually report out at the end of the year for the previous year of how those numbers have changed.
So can we estimate maybe it's over the last 12 to 18 months that we've created 116 full-time employees?
I think that's
Is that reasonably to
Sure.
assume? Okay, that is great. I love the program for getting small businesses started. And I still need to go to that Blueberry Hill Cafe
oh yeah.
on
It's one of my
Spring Street.
favorites.
That is always crowded. I can't find a place to park, so I just go maybe to McDonald's. So it's
Bad.
bad. But no, it's wonderful. Thank you so much. Do I have any other questions from the committee or comments from the committee? Hearing none, I would like to have this report forwarded to the county board, please. Okay. I'm going to move on to my next agenda item. If I can find it. Number 6, we have the Finance Department, Gwen Zimmer, Racine County 2024 second quarter investment report. The staff from PMA Investments is available here for discussion. This is a report. Gwen?
Thank you. I'd like to call up Brian Hexel from PMA. For some of the newer members of the committee, we previously used Dana Investment for years and years and years. And last year we did an RFP to make sure that we were getting the best investment services for the best pricing. And the committee, which included the chair and vice chair of this committee, chose PMA to be our new investment advisors. So we started with them in January, and this is their update to the second quarter.
Welcome, Brian.
All right, thank you.
Good to see you again.
Good seeing you as well. I just wanted to begin by expressing my condolences to this committee for the loss of Jonathan Delagrave. I was really sorry to hear about that a couple of months ago. And yeah, I'd gotten to know him, good guy, real loss. So with that said, turning to our report, I'm going to kind of move through some of the introductory information and even the economic and market data fairly quickly. From an economic and market perspective, I will say since last time I was here, I think the direction of the Fed's move has definitely clarified, and even the timing of it. I would have said in May that the next move from the Fed would be a cut in interest rates. There was still a lot of question around when. Even at the Fed's June meeting, there was still questions amongst Fed members. They were actually kind of reducing the number of cuts expected from 3 to 1 cut in that meeting. Since then, at the July meeting and the annual meetings at Jackson Hole, it's become very clear that the Fed intends to cut interest rates for the first time at its September meeting, most likely by 0.25%. So we're moving from a very high level. That was a reaction to high inflation levels. Those numbers are coming down, and we are seeing a steady increase in the employment rate. And there's one thing that people who have followed the Fed have criticized the Fed of many times in the past, is that the Fed is responsible for all recessions. This has been thrown around. Fed keeps interest rates too high, unemployment goes up, and the economy finds itself in a recession. So that seems to be the clear direction. The Fed has really shifted its focus to the employment data. Friday will be a super important number. There's people in the market calling for a 50 basis point cut in September. We think that's fairly unlikely, but there's 3 remaining meetings this year, a quarter point cut at each of those, quite likely. Certainly if we see unemployment move higher than its 4.3% level currently, they could put a 50 basis point cut in one of those 3 meetings. So, 75 basis points to a 1% cut this year, at least another 1% next year. So we would think we would find interest rates closer to 3% by the end of next year compared to the current range of 5.25 to 5.5% the Fed's targeting. So again, inflation coming down, unemployment moving up here a little bit. The Fed wants to navigate this soft landing, remaining healthy for markets. So we kind of put all of that together, along with, there was one other slide in here kind of talking about corporate balance sheets being in a really strong spot. Leverage is low, earnings are good. The consumer at the lower income levels definitely feeling a little bit of strain from the combination of higher inflation and higher interest rates. So this move from the Fed would appear to be timed such that we won't see a recurrence of inflation and help avoid further economic strain of U.S. consumers and ultimately the economy. So we feel like that's a pretty good spot. Certainly we'll see this more volatility. It's still uncertainty around the timing and the extent of these cuts, particularly if there's a 50 basis point cut, what happens next year exactly. So we expect to see interest rates moving up and down. The stock market, is going to have days like these past 2 days where it's down significantly. Ultimately, though, lower interest rates should be good for bonds. Lower interest rates generally good for stocks. One thing to keep in mind is certainly those overnight type deposits, whether it's a money market fund or a savings account at a bank. We expect those rates to be moving down, at least as fast as the Fed is cutting rates. You might see, interest rates even fall a little faster than what the Fed does in anticipation of that. So, keeping an eye on that, but good for long-term type investing. So turning from the markets to the county's portfolio, really want, a main takeaway to be here. I think, we just spoke 3 months ago. I think this is a pretty boring report. We like boring reports. This is what we do. These are high quality investments we're building. The average rating in this portfolio is AA+. So something the county can feel very, very confident in investing in. It's well diversified by sector, by individual security, by time to maturity. We feel very good about this portfolio. As you look over the past 3 months, really not very much change. It was a little bit of a buildup in cash that just related to some maturities and cash inflows right at the end of the month. That subsequently got invested early in August. So not to jump into the next time that I'm here, but I'll just say that we added to treasuries and mortgage-backed securities with some of that cash. So agency mortgage backs, an area that, you know, to the extent that we do see some economic weakness, credit spreads could widen out in the corporate sector. You know, buying treasuries and agency securities would avoid that potential. And, you know, we think this is a good time to be investing in that area. The yield in the portfolio, keeping in mind this is a 1 to 5 year portfolio, 4.7%. Really quite attractive, indicative of good, you know, returns in the year ahead. And as we think about short-term interest rates moving towards 3, seeing, you know, a 4.7% looking really good. And that's beating our benchmark by about 0.5%. So this high quality diversified portfolio really, you know, should be setting up for good returns in the year ahead. And we have some really good returns to report here for the year as well. You know, as we move through the slides, diversified portfolio everywhere from overnight type investments out to 5 years, laddered out, turning to returns. July, a really strong month, 1% returns. You know, since inception returns, so going back to the beginning of the year, 3.7%. So only 7 months into the year, already generating 3.7% returns. That's not an annualized number, so that's a periodic number. So we'd anticipate that to continue to build. And in fact, if you look through August, we're up to 4.7%. So another 1% single month return, which is really quite phenomenal return. It binds that if you annualize that, that'd be 12%. We don't anticipate earning 12%. These are high quality treasury type securities, but with interest rates moving down, it's sort of the opposite of the story that pained so many communities when interest rates were moving up, which pushed those bond prices down. There is a flip side to that story, and you know, we're seeing that this year, which is really nice. As we turn to the ARPA portfolio, this is a portfolio certainly cash heavy, treasuries and agency securities. So I would call it a very vanilla portfolio. Cash has been building in that as some of the government agencies have matured, staying in good communication with Gwen and her whole team in terms of the need there. I mean, I will highlight that getting through these projects, identifying exactly when those funds are needed, how much is going to be needed is challenging. We're doing our best. We want to be able to lock in some of these rates to the extent that monies won't be spent for the next year plus. But, you know, we're getting down towards the time when the funds need to be spent, and definitely holding a little bit more cash there in anticipation of those needs. So with the shorter term portfolio, 5.16% yield on those funds. So those funds, while in cash, are earning a lot of interest for the county as well. Very short portfolio, 0 to 1 years, returns, similar picture to what we just saw for the county's operating reserves. Year to date through July, 2.7%, through August, 3.6%. So good picture. County's doing well from an investment perspective, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Brian. Questions from the committee in regards to his current report? I see none.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. Keep up the good work, please. Okay, number 7, I have transfers. I have the county board authorize a project with Browns Lake Sanitary District to dredge Browns Lake and the transfer of $1.1 million within the Monsanto settlement 2024 budget, requesting first and second readings at the September 10th, 2024 county board meeting. I have Mr. Claude Loyce here that has spearheaded this project for, I don't know how long, long time. And thank you for joining us this evening, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and supervisors, for giving us the opportunity to come this evening and talk to you about our project that we have been working on, quite frankly, for decades. And we're finally at the process of where we have our permits. We are moving things forward. We've done a number of things. We've put together kind of an ad hoc finance committee to help us look at different avenues for financing. And one of the things we did to try and tell our story and tell the story about Browns Lake, which again is probably one of the biggest gems, I think, in Racine County, at least from the western side of the eye, it is. And it's one of the most heavily used parks that you have in Racine County. So we put together a short video. It's about 6 minutes long. So if you'd kind of bear me some time here, we'd love to play the video for you. By the way, this was put together by one of our volunteers on the finance committee. So it's, I think it's really well. We updated it, by the way. The pictures you'll see of the lake this year is Venetian weekend on Browns Lake. You will see the amount of traffic that was on our lake and the amount of people that were there.
Ready, sir?
Yep, thank you. Please.
John, ready?
You want to try and start it over? Always a glitch. No luck. So while he's working
Yeah,
on the video,
thank you.
sorry. we also have a PowerPoint. I sent this to you electronically, but I'm sorry, I'm a paper guy. So I handed out copies for everyone, which clearly all these items are also in our video as well. See if he's. If not, again, we can go through the PowerPoint as well. Again, everything is here. I talked about Browns Lake, as mentioned, it's been here. It's year round, it's used all the time by a lot of residents, obviously in Racine County. It's very popular, obviously, during the summer months as well. Talked about the lake, talked about the Browns Lake Sanitary District. Again, by the way, I'm the president of the Browns Lake Sanitary District. And we've been in operation for over 50 years. Our main goal is obviously the sanitary district around the lake and the lake residents. So we right now have about 1,343 customers that belong to our Browns Lake Sanitary District, and the majority of those are around the lake or near the lake area in Browns Lake. Again, our goal for the last 50 plus years has been to maintain obviously our sanitary district as well as the lake. So we have we purchased our own barges. We have 2 cutting barges for weed harvesting. We also have the conveyor and all the equipment to maintain the lake. And we have, I mean, over a number of years, Browns Lake, we did a tremendous amount of weed cutting on that lake. I can happy to say today, we're actually in a maintenance mode. Our weeds are well under control. Browns Lake is not a weed problem anymore. Now it's just a sediment problem. But we are happy to say, so we right now our permit with the DNR for weeds is just harvesting what's there and just maintaining that. But we pick up any seaweed that comes to shore, people put it on their pier. We go every day and we'll pick up that seaweed from the residents along the lake to address that issue, to pick up their seaweed from them. Obviously, fish, we also stock the lake. We work with the DNR. Whatever the DNR is doing that year, if they can, they do it every other year. So we'll supplement whatever they didn't do. And that year, we'll put that in as well. The same year the DNR does, but then we also stock around 5,000 fish every year of a different species that the DNR recommends us to do. So, crappies, minnows, bluegills, perch, things like that. Obviously, in recent years, you'll see from the pictures here, the sediment has gotten to be a tremendous concern. And not that it hasn't been for a while, but it's been a tremendous concern as of late. You can see all the scarring if you look, and I'm sorry I did not label the slide, but you'll see it on the soft sediment. And our sediment is very, very soft and it moves. So that when the boats stir it up, you can't see anything but, a muck, the sediment, right? So, and again, in a lot of these areas here where you see the island at the picture in the center, I mean, there's literally probably less than 2 feet of water, actual water in that area right there. Now this year we've been fortunate with all the rain, the lake is actually up. So during the summer, you'll see the lake level drop because the lake is only fed by Mother Nature. It is not spring fed, according to the DNR. We always thought it was, but it's not. It's only fed by Mother Nature. So, I mean, last year and years prior, I mean, it'll be by July, it'll be down 12 inches. So there's a number of places then where it becomes extremely hard to, navigable or even use the lake, even for fishing, quite frankly. So again, we've been working on it for the past 2 years, at least I have for the past 2 or 3 years, working with our partners, the DNR, to get a permit to dredge. So in December or November of last year, we did receive our permit. So our permit, and I'll show you on the other slides, we're allowed up to right around 400,000 cubic yards of sediment to be removed. And you can see on the map of the areas that we're looking at, there's three really prominent areas where the sediment is. Obviously, it's by just past Fisher Park to the west, and then it goes all the way along the west, and then the southern and the whole western side of the lake. Where the waterfront is, the island is, those areas I think a lot of people are familiar with. That's probably where the most is. Obviously that bay, and again, there's probably just 2 feet of water in that bay on a good day. So you can see there, we're estimated to take out almost 250,000 cubic yards of sediment out of that bay. The good news is also with, getting our permit, we needed a place to put this sediment. So working with a couple of our local farmers and actually local people that actually live on the lake, we have the Petrie family as well as the Wanasek family. We have both those farms available. They're less than about a mile away at the way the crow flies. And our sediment, again, as I spoke earlier, it's so light, it'll be pumped. It's not a hydraulic where they're digging with a manhole or things like that. This is going to be sucked with a 16-inch hose that they suck it out of. So from there, we'll pump it all the way to the sites for sediment. So it'll have a sediment basin that'll go into, for lack of a better term, a big pond. From there, it'll get dewatered. And then they call it a clean pond or a chrome pond. From there, we're going to pump the water back as fast as we can at the same time to try and keep the lake level. And we also, I didn't mention earlier, but within the video, we also got approval from the DNR to put in a high pressure well. That high pressure well will be done yet this year. And that was totally funded by the Browns Lake Sanitary District, which was a cost of just under $1 million for that project. But our goal there was, again, in previous years when we've been in a drought, 12 inches, there's a lot of people can't use their boats. It's very hard to navigate to get around the lake at that point in time. Our goal with the well and our goal with our permit and the DNR to keep our lake level up. We know the dam is right by where our location is for our pump. So we know exactly where the water is. We know where the dam level is. So for a backup, we also have a well. But our goal is to pump as much water as we possibly can back to the lake as we're dredging. Next process obviously came through, what's the cost? What's it going to cost to do this? So we literally put it out to bid. So we put it out to bid. We had a great pre-construction meeting or pre-con meeting with all the contractors. We had 5 at the time that came in for a mandatory pre-bid meeting. Got a lot of great feedback from the contractors. Obviously, I have never dredged the lake before, folks. So we learned a lot. We've made some changes to our bid and then resubmitted the bid back out and then gave those contractors another couple of weeks to analyze it after we made some changes based upon their feedback. And again, at that point in time, we received 4 bids back. And our low bid was $9,345,000 by Dredge America, which is a company out of Missouri. This is all they do. They've been around for 30 plus years. And this is, this is what they do for a living, quite frankly. So they were the low bidder. We had 4 other bids. The highest one went just under 12 million. And we estimated it to be 7.5 to $10 million was our estimate to do the dredging project. So the 9.3 came in with Dredge America. So obviously that's who we're looking to move forward with. So once we had the bid, we kind of knew the numbers. We put together everything else from the engineering standpoint. And then we came here. We went to the town, our partners at the town of Burlington as well. And the town chairman is here this evening. And again, one of the meetings, I had a kind of a preliminary meeting with our folks at the county and our good friend Jonathan, some of you as well. So you asked us to look at, and if you look at the last slide, I'll refer back to it a couple of times here, but the last in your book, the last video I have in there was, we kind of broke it into 4 quadrants. We asked the town of Burlington to fund 25%. We asked the county to fund 25%. We asked the lake owners to fund 25%, and then the Browns Lake Sanitary District, which is still the lake owners, would also fund 25%. So we kind of broke it up into 4 quadrants here, as you can see. And we kind of broke it out based on, what is that going to cost anybody? So we broke it out by homes. We know how many homes are on the water. We know how many folks that, there's 3 different associations around Browns Lake: Cedar Park, Fisher Park, Fairfield, and then Health Point, Health Corners. So we had the 3 different associations. We looked at all those things. We analyzed all that stuff, and we came up with these numbers. And then the Browns Lake Sanitary District will do a special assessment for the folks that are on the water. And then there's 3 beaches that are on the water. They'll get a special assessment. And then there's a couple associations that have a dock, where they have a pier with 22 slips in it. Those folks will have a charge as well for having their pier on the lake and things like that. But overall, and the other thing, the town did approve 2.5 million to fund the project, as well as bonding. And we asked the town to bond originally, just to save us money on interest. We, the Browns Lake Sanitary District, can bond, but we're small, right? No different than you folks or the town. You're a bigger, government authority, so we'll get a cheaper rate. And we have that proven by Ellers, who is our bond counselor. So again, the town approved the 2.5 million, as well as to bond up to $10 million for the project. So we're here. We're at the county. And again, I've had some conversation with some of you folks. And again, right now we're at the 1.1 million that we're asking for from the finance committee, as well as from the county. And I know this is some settlement dollars, and I'll let you cover that, Mr. Chairman. But again, this has been a project that has been worked on for years. Again, it is one of your busiest lakes you have in Racine County. And we've done the best job we possibly can to maintain this lake, but we have to do this. And this has to happen now, because you won't have this opportunity again. I know your friends from Waterford have been here asking for money. I know the city has been here trying to ask for money. If they're not, they will be. It might. Yeah. So, and again, so we're here obviously looking for some support from the county. We know there's different things you're working on, or there's a lot of things you're asking for that people ask you of. We're coming to you with a project in hand. We're ready to go, folks. Hopefully we're going to sign the dredging contract with Dredge America later this month. We will bond yet this year. We are ready to go in spring of 25. We are going to start digging the ponds yet this year, which was one of the recommendations, which is again why I appreciate Chairman Trotter putting it on, Kramer putting it on for a first and second reading next week. So thank you for expediting that for us. But again, it's a great project here, folks. It's a great improvement to our lake in Racine County, and it's ours. It's all of ours. I get that, but it's being funded mainly by us on the lake. And so again, we appreciate your support, and we hope we can continue to get your support moving forward. So with that, want to play the video?
Yeah, I'm going to hold off with the questions until we see the 5-6 minute video, please. Ready, John? Thank you.
That's this July, by the way.
Thank you, John, for getting that going. And
Yes, thank you.
any other comments, sir?
I'm happy to answer questions. I'm sure there's some questions from some of the board members. Again, I think we're at a point where we need to move forward, and now is the time. Everything is kind of lined up. The stars, for lack of a better term, have kind of aligned here. We have a place to put it. The sediment's clean. It doesn't be hauled to a landfill. We can pump the water back as fast as we possibly can back to the lake to help maintain the level. And again, that our permit, by the way, from the DNR, we're allowed to go down to have 7 feet of clear water. So we can take it, sediment down to 7 feet. Again, biggest reason why that is obviously now the boat propellers, things like that won't be hitting the sediment anymore. So it won't be moving it as much as it is currently today. Because right now the boats are just going through it. So they're moving it. And then we can go up to with 20 feet of the shoreline, which is just a DNR standard code. So, but that does not stop the homeowner, excuse me, from doing their shoreline and pushing it out 20 feet. So then it gets picked up. But again, that's what our permit does entail. And our permit goes until 2026. And again, we are ready to go, sign a contract. We're ready to get the ponds dug yet this year, and we're ready to get Dredge America on board.
I'm gonna ask questions from the committee, but first I see Youth and Governance. Madhura Patel has a question for you, Mr. Lois.
Once you're done with the project and you've removed all of the sediment, do you think it will ever come back with the same severity anytime soon?
Great question. And no, we don't. Go back even, 10, 15 years. Browns Lake there was a lot of summer cottages. If you go around Browns Lake today, there are not many summer cottages anymore. They are permanent homes. Even they may still obviously have some Illinois residents that may live there. They are now permanent homes. Shoreline's been stabilized. Everything has been fixed. So there's no more, and we even, Browns Lake, we have an ordinance from the sanitary district, as the town does, even for spraying the grass and the leaves. You can't blow your leaves into the lake. I can't help the trees falling, the leaves into the lake, but you can't purposely put them in the lake. And that's where a lot of this stuff has come from over time. And just the shoreline just eroding over time. So yeah, that's a great question, but no, we think this will last us for a long time.
Okay, thank you.
And has that ordinance been in place as far as chemicals being used on lake owners' property?
Quite a while. I don't know
Has
how
it?
long it's
Yeah.
been.
So it has been in effect
Yeah,
for a
yeah.
good long period of time.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
You won't see anybody out there with a spray in their lawn for fertilizer.
And I know that the DNR also gives suggestions to lakefront owners of building, big mounds in front, or as close as in front of their properties that they can, so it doesn't obstruct their view, so on and so forth, to prevent runoff and things like that.
Any shoreline stabilization,
Sure.
obviously has to be approved by the DNR, but again, most everybody's done that over the past, 15, 20 years. And again, you can drive around there today, and yes, there are still a couple of, maybe some of the older cottages, but there aren't many.
Sure.
They are now permanent homes.
I see Supervisor Spencer. I'm going to call on you first
Thank you.
or second.
Thanks for your presentation. My question, I saw that the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers was there in May.
Yep.
And I'm wondering, did they advise? How are they involved or?
So
what-
again, part with the DNR, obviously Army Corps had to sign off it as well. So we met with the folks from the Army Corps, and again, as we've said, we kind of formed this ad hoc finance committee trying to find funds. Our downside, quite frankly, as I said earlier, Browns Lake is a man-made lake or glacier lake. Nothing feeds Browns Lake. So what I mean by that, there's no stream, there's no creek, nothing comes into it, which quite frankly knocks you out of 99% of any funding. Because you're not cleaning up anything else other than your lake. And unfortunately, they don't care about that. But we still got the Army Corps to come there. We gave them a tour. We have their letter signing off that they have no problems with this. They think it's a great idea for us to get this done. And they obviously approved that, but we didn't get any funding from them.
Okay, thank
We
you.
were disappointed, but understood.
I have another question. This one's probably for Gwen. I'm curious, and I'm sure a lot of folks here listening are, about the Monsanto settlement. And, kind of what else have we done with the Monsanto settlement money?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, so if there are specific questions, Corporation Counsel and Assistant Corporation Counsel are here. They've done extensive research on the settlement itself and what the money can be used for. To date, we've done nothing with it except for put it into LGIP, the Local Government interest investment pool. We received originally $2,003,000, just a little bit more. It's been sitting in that account for a few months since earlier this year, and we have earned $121,000 in interest on it. So the current balance of the funds is $2,125,000. But no projects have been approved or considered except for this one.
Go ahead.
Just to be clear, this is where, if the county contributes to this, this is where the money's going to come from.
That is what
Correct.
the chairman of the board has proposed.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? This great project. I mean, I've been going out to Browns Lake when I was a kid, and I see my kid who dated a woman in high school, convinced him to go out in the fall to take out all the piers of the property owners on behalf of the aqueducts. And I believe that's how they generate some income.
That's it.
And I know my son did that for a couple of years and then didn't date the woman anymore, so he didn't have to go out there. Okay, so he wasn't committed to the Browns Lake, but he was committed. I have a question in regards to the activity on the lake for 2025. What do you see the projection of activity on the lake in 2025?
Great question. So the dredge, again, we're working with Dredge America. Like I said, we've learned a lot after talking to these folks. And again, our goal is it going to be affected? I'd lie to you if I told you it wasn't, okay? So yeah, there's going to be some effect. But they are going to start, if you look at your diagram, they're going to start right by Fisher Park. Again, we thought they might start up here, work their way back, but they will start here and work their way this way. Their plan right now is to be through these bays here all in 25. They work from April to November. And again, like example, this year, ice was off of Browns Lake by February. So I'm thinking, let's get them out there now, right? Have them start early. They ain't now. No, we've done that before. We will not start until April. So they start in April, they end in November. So, and then we know where the pier is, where to launch it at Fisher Park. They're able to bury their pipe in several locations. They can't bury the whole thing. In other words, they can sink it, sorry. So they'll sink their pipe where we need them to sink their pipe. We're working with all of our residents around the lake to let them know, now that we know what the schedule is and that, we believe things are moving forward, it may be in your best interest to remove your pier so they can get up to that 20 feet, but again, that's your choice. They'll work with whatever's there. So as we get past these areas, you can put your piers back in and keep your boating experience there. So, I mean, there'll be some buoys, obviously, we all identified things like that, but we are doing our best to make sure the lake is still obviously usable. They work 7 days a week, 12-hour days is what they're allowed to work. The only weekend or / day that we said that they really can't, quite frankly, and you saw the part of it is Venetian night. Venetian night on Browns Lake is crazy, folks. We don't want anybody else out there that doesn't have to be out there. And these folks, we don't want them out there at that point in time. So they know they have to shut down for that point in time. But other than that, I mean, Memorial Day, Labor Day, they could probably still be working pretty well. And because they're out of state, their deal is they'll work 21 days straight and then 3 days off, and then 21 days straight, 3 days off, but 7 days a week, 12-hour days.
Make sure you got enough motels, hotels for all these individuals coming out to the lake. Any other comments from the committee? I do need a motion on this.
Mr. Chair.
Excuse me. Absolutely. This is our legal counsel, our head legal counsel, Attorney Michael Lansdorf, has a couple of comments.
No, this will be real brief. Because this is up for a first and second reading at our upcoming county board meeting on September the 10th, I believe, I will not be at that meeting. It's going to be covered by another attorney in our office, Attorney Sarah Kidd. John Sertich, our principal assistant, has researched the Monsanto class action settlement extensively. He and I are both prepared to address any questions that may arise, but I would encourage, similar to consideration of the resolving of any sort of claims. If you have questions, I encourage you to reach out to us in advance, just because I won't be at that meeting. So if there are any questions that are specific to that source of funds, I encourage you to reach out directly. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Michael, since you're there, or John, what are the allowable expenditures from that fund?
So I'll start by saying there aren't any strict requirements that we're aware of. By way of background, the Monsanto settlement funds, roughly the $2.1 million that's accrued to, these derive from a class action settlement that was brought by counties, municipalities that owned, operated, and or managed various stormwater systems that had become contaminated with PCBs. As a result of that, they had argued that Monsanto should be responsible for, among other things, testing, remediation, other clean water initiatives that may be required by the Clean Water Act under administration by the Wisconsin DNR. Monsanto, without admitting liability, did end up entering into a global class action settlement, settling it for $550 million. As it relates to any sort of specific limitations or reporting requirements or auditing, we're aware of no such specific requirements. They are intended to be used towards exactly those things that I mentioned: monitoring clean water initiatives, addressing any sort of prior contamination or actions that have deteriorated the quality of water. But there are no specific requirements of how those funds are used, different than, for example, the opioid litigation, where you've heard about those, and there are very specific limitations and requirements on use of those funds and auditing requirements that we need to adhere to, but there's no such limitations that we're aware of in this context.
Chairman?
Supervisor Miller.
So, very impressed with all the hard work you've put into this and the collaborative approach of getting as many funding sources as possible. Like Chairman Trottier, my family visited Browns Lake many times in my youth, and I'm older than you. So it's been a long time gem, as you say, for the county and regionally. So we have a fund that is really a one-time resource for us. And this, I think this is a good use of a one-time project. And it certainly will enhance a very important asset for the county. So I would move that we send this for first and second reading to the county board.
Sorry. We have a first from Supervisor Miller, a second from Supervisor Ekman. Any additional comments, questions?
Mr. Chairman, could I just?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
For 1 second. Again, we've worked very hard on this. I've worked very hard on this, but there's some folks that are here that have been traveling with us for the last 6 months. So I just want to acknowledge them and their support for, again, our project, your lake, our lake, and them always being here to help us make sure we can get your support as well. So I just want to acknowledge my support group, for lack of a better term, that's here. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And the town board as well, and town chairman is here.
Thank you. Thank you. Great support from all residents of Racine County and specifically the Browns Lake area. Thank you. So we have a first and we have a second. I don't see any hands up. Youth and Governance, all in favor? Committee, all in favor?
Aye.
Are there any nays? It has been approved by this committee. It will go in front of the county board on September 10th, 2024 for first and second reading. Thank you.
Thank you. Could I just, Gwen, just for clarification, then once the county board approves that, then we can just figure out how to get the check? Sorry, I'm just funny about that stuff. Sorry.
Fire it right now. Attached.
Hang on.
Attached in the packet, I drafted a
Right.
draft MOU that we would just need to nail that down.
Right.
It's similar to ones that we've done in the past, in particular, the ARPA contribution to. So if you want to, I can send it to you. If you want to take a peek, we can start working on that now. And as soon as we get it done, we can get it done.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank
You
you.
bet.
Thank you all.
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Miller.
Is for those who might not be familiar with our procedures. Ordinarily, we send something to the county board one meeting and then it gets voted on the second, but we're asking for both steps to be done next week, so.
Okay, I am going to move on with our rest of our business. I have number 7. I have transfers. Read this a little bit better. Human Service Department, I have Jeff Langley here to authorize the acceptance of a Wisconsin Department of Justice grant and the transfer of $25,000 within the Public Health 2024 budget. This is requesting first and second reading at the September 10th, 2024 County Board meeting. Good evening, Jeff.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this grant in front of you is a suicide prevention grant. It is part of the Department of Justice's State Crisis Intervention Program. And this grant helps us accomplish some of our mental health objectives, both that are specific to the health department and the county as a whole. This particular grant gives us the resources to work with local gun shops and firing ranges. So to help them work with their constituents who may be experiencing mental health crises to secure their firearms voluntarily. And it also gives us the resources to do what's called QPR training at these gun ranges and gun shops to help people who work there be a little more on the lookout for people who might be struggling. And so that's an evidence-based curriculum that we're already doing with community partners. And this is just a small amount of money to help us purchase some supplies, do some outreach, and purchase some gun safes and other devices that will help these shops and firing ranges be able to serve their constituents in a way that's helpful and can potentially save lives. Gun violence is a public health problem. Suicide by gun violence is one of those, you don't hear a lot about it. We hear about the unfortunate things that happened this morning, for example. But gun violence related, or particularly among men, and particularly among men over 65, is extremely high in our county, particularly in our rural areas. And so again, this gives us an opportunity to work with our community in a way that we haven't done before.
Questions from the committee? Supervisor Ekman?
Do you know if it's something that local gun shops and ranges are they open to that training initiative, or you've got that feedback?
So that'll be our first step when we've started to we've identified between 3 and 5 shops to reach out to or ranges. We actually have some personnel on staff who have connections, personal relationships with firing ranges and gun shops that should give us a good in to working with these. Again, this is a voluntary program. And some of this money, a good portion of it's going to be used for outreach and raising awareness around suicide as well. So.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff, is this something new, this grant? Has it been tried before or something along this line?
So it's new for the state. This is called their gun shop project. What the state did is, in order to really expand the reach of this, they need local support. They need people, boots on the ground, to really start working locally with gun shops instead of the state doing it. And so they made these mini grants for local health departments or local community groups to do that outreach to really expand the reach of this program. So it is new and it's definitely new to us.
Sounds very good. I'm surprised at the age of what was it, 65 and over, I think I read somewhere in here, and you repeated it?
Yeah, so
Suicide?
suicides by suicide. So to give you a little bit of background on some statistics, 82% of firearm related deaths are suicide related. And that's in Racine County. Over a 9-year period, the suicide rate by firearm among men was 7 times higher than women. And so 56% of all, firearms accounted for 56% of all male suicides during that same time period as well. Residents age 65 and older have the highest percentage of suicide by firearm, and that's 84%, followed by those in the 55 to 64 age group, and that's at 59%. And what we know about these are unfortunate statistics that men have a higher death rate due to suicide because of the means of lethality, whereas women have more attempts using lesser lethal means. So there are less opportunities to intervene in preventing suicide, particularly among men, because of the high mortality rate given the lethal means. So this is one way to work with gun owners and gun shops to just raise awareness around this and potentially save a few lives.
This fits in really good with that program that we started about a year and a half ago. What was the name of that again? Real Men or something like that?
Man Therapy.
Man Therapy. Yeah,
Mantherapy.com.
Man Therapy. Works really good. Questions? Supervisor Spencer.
Just, I guess as someone whose family's been affected by suicide by gunshot, I'm all in support of this. However, I won't be there on the 10th to vote on this.
Thank you.
Comments? Supervisor Kelly. Question.
So when the gun shop identifies someone that is in crisis, what is their solution for that?
So that's where our training comes into play. And so QPR training is the acronym for question, persuade, refer. And so we'll make sure we give those employees these tools to be able to work with people, identify that, and they'll know what to do, know what the steps to take. In addition, if these shops accept this offer, we can provide them with that gun safe that can be used specifically just for those persons' firearms to lock up until that person till they come back and have been stabilized and can have safe return to their firearm.
Okay, thank you. Education is absolutely key. As a gun owner and, my son who was doing trap shooting for 6 years, volunteer coaches that would come out that are ex-firefighters, education is absolutely key. So I am in favor of this, but, I'd like to hear more as it progresses. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I have one more.
Supervisor Spencer.
Could you tell us what the QPR is again so I can share that?
Sure. Question, persuade, refer.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have two supervisors that are truly in support of this, and one wants results provided later as we progress, if we get this approved, transfer these funds. Do I hear a motion then?
I will so move, send it to county board for first and second.
We have a first and then a second by Supervisor Kelly. Any additional discussion in regards to this transfer of money? Hearing none. Youth and Governance, all in favor? Committee, all in favor?
Aye.
Are there any nays out there? Hearing none. This will be forwarded to the county board for first and second reading on September 10th, 2024. Thank you very much, Jeff.
Thank you.
Okay, I have number 8, Human Resource. I have Sarah Street here for the 2025 FLSA changes and their impact on Racine County for 2024. Information only. Hello, Sarah.
Hello, good evening. So I wanted to bring you some information that the federal government, the Department of Labor, recently made some changes. And I like the way that you said that because I do it the same way. I always say FLSA. I have to say it slowly. But just for background information, any position can be considered non-exempt, any position. But to be considered, and exempt means they're paid hourly, they're eligible for overtime. But to be exempt from the FLSA rules, you do have to, the position requires certain criteria. Those criteria are duties test, so what the position does as far as duties, and then the other test is the salary threshold. So the federal government made a change to the salary threshold portion, and that is going to be in effect starting January 1st, 2025. So the important changes are the increase to the salary update or threshold was going from 35,000 to 55,000. So that's a pretty significant increase in a short amount of time. And then the plan in the future is to make updates on a regular schedule. So every 4 years, then those updates would happen. I don't have any information about what a percent might be or what that's going to look like. So we took a look. This will impact at 55 unique positions at Racine County, which equates to about 85 employees. The HR team is currently meeting with departments to go over to make sure that positions are correctly classified so that they do meet the duties test. And just to give you some examples of the duties that qualify to be exempt, they have to be like non-manual work, exercise discretion and independent thinking. So it's really, like I was saying, can be subjective, require advanced knowledge beyond high school. So those are some of the examples of the duty test. And then we also take a look. So those 55 positions are currently below the new threshold. So then the decision is, do they become non-exempt or do they need to be reclassified into a higher exempt pay grade? So that's in process right now. So we completed the job audit to identify those positions. The team is almost completed with meeting with all the departments to see what the recommendations are per position. Then I anticipate in October, early November, that we'd be communicating to employees, and I can do another update to this committee at that time. And then we'll provide some training for supervisors, most likely late November, early December, so that because there's going to be changes for them too. They likely will have exempt employees that are going to non-exempt. And so the time reporting is going to be different. So giving them some training too. But I do think the communication piece is going to be really important so that employees realize that they're not being penalized. And this is not a decision that the county is making, but that we are just following the regulations that we need to follow.
Any comments, questions of Sarah? This is not a voting thing. This is information only, but are there any additional questions from the committee or youth and governance? I would like this to be forwarded to the county board, please, this information. And I'm going to ask one more time, seeing none, again, hearing none. I will then move on to number 9 on my, this is finance. Thank you very much, Sarah. Appreciate that. Finance Department, Gwen Zimmer, Racine County 2024 quarter, the second quarter accepted donations report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pursuant to the Racine County Code of Ordinance, I am required to notify you regularly of donations that were accepted in the county executive's office. So this outlines the $10,585 that was received between April 1st and June 30th of this year.
Thank you very much on the report. Again, please forward that to the county board. Next up, we have the, again, finance. Gwen has promised us a quarterly report in regards to grant applications that are out there. Gwen?
I would like to note that the second one on this list, the SCIP expansion grant, this committee just approved tonight. So, I know there have been questions before of what's the status of them after after the grant application is done. If it was not already included in the budget, we are required by ordinance to bring it back to this committee for approval, and that was a perfect example of one that we did that. So the 5 grants here, I know some are still pending, some are regular, some are on the state fiscal cycle, so we won't know until probably this month or next month if we get them, but happy to answer any questions.
Since I have been on the county board, the grant writing has, really revved up. I am just so happy I wish I could take a count of how many new grants we've gotten, but I know there's a good amount of grants that I believe Travis is one of the spearheads of this, with communications amongst all the departments, which may or may not be out there, giving him ideas on what to look for, what to go for. But he's the engine behind this. So thank you very much. And thank you to Travis. Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the second page, the top one, Department of Children and Families for 6 million. We anticipated a July 1st response, but do we have one yet?
We just learned last week that we did not receive the grant.
Thank you. Next up, I have for discussion and information amongst the committee here, the ordinance by the Racine County Finance and Human Resource Committee and Executive Committee creating Chapter 7, Article 9, County Sales Tax Use Tax and Property Tax Relief of the Racine County Ordinance of 2024. Discussion from the committee. I'm open for discussion. Any comments about that? Supervisor Ekman?
I don't know if I guess it falls within the topic. The email that we received today regarding the ability for the county to do a referendum on the topic. Maybe since we're all here, if you could address that.
Thank you. So I have not seen the email, so I'm not sure of exact contents, but I did have a conversation with the supervisor this afternoon who alerted me generally to the fact that there had been an email expressing some level of disagreement about a prior opinion that our office had rendered regarding the viability of an advisory referenda related to consideration of implementation of a county sales tax ordinance. So by way of background, when this issue was brought before FHR, about a month ago, I wasn't in attendance at that meeting, but I listened to the recording of it and listened very closely as it related to a request and a motion that was made that was approved, requesting that the Office of Corporation Counsel weigh in on the viability of an advisory referendum relative to county sales tax ordinance. So once I learned of that, we researched the issue, and at the next meeting, which I believe was a public hearing of the county board, addressed that specific issue. Now, the important point that I need to emphasize is it was clear in the context of that discussion at FHR and of the motion that that was specific to an advisory referenda. We have done advisory referenda in the past on issues. And so when I addressed the board, I tried to be as responsive as I could to that specific issue and rendered the opinion that advisory referenda are permissible under state statute only under certain specific circumstances, none of which would apply to implementation of a county sales tax. An advisory referenda is essentially weighing in on public opinions. Is this something that's generally favored, generally disfavored, with the idea that once the public weighs in and gives some indication of what the public opinion may be on a particular issue, that could inform a future county board consideration of an issue. And so The opinion that I rendered, I stand by. I'm not sure exactly of the contents of that message. I told the supervisor that I spoke to this morning that I suspect that the issue that may have been presenting is the viability of a contingent referenda. A contingent referenda is very different than advisory referenda. That is something that theoretically could be used for adoption of a county sales tax ordinance. In that situation, the board would take action, would approve a county sales tax ordinance, but that approval would be contingent upon the voters then weighing in on this, not on their general opinion, but yay or nay, does this pass or does it not pass? And so I'm happy to elaborate because I'm not even entirely sure if that was the specific point that was being made, but that's very different. That's very different than advisory referenda. Another takeaway that I would offer is that, and I made reference to this at that same public hearing, I'd spoken to Wisconsin Counties Association, their legal counsel. Our office had looked into this. We were unaware of the 10 most recent counties to have implemented a county sales tax. We could find no indication that any of those counties had done so through use of an advisory referenda while that remained a legally viable option. I've since had further discussions with WCA. They indicated through their legal counsel that they have no record of, nor are they aware of a single county, 69 of which have implemented a county sales tax, to have done so through use of a contingent referendum.
Supervisor Miller.
I just forwarded the email to
thank
you,
you.
so you, and the document was from the Legislative Reference Bureau.
Sure.
Supervisor Spencer.
Thank you. So one of my big concerns is for nonprofits. And if we don't pass the sales tax and we have to cut health and human services, it'll also affect nonprofits. And I just see my concern is that those services are going to spiral down and the nonprofits are going to lose funding and it's just going to get worse. And I'm just wondering if maybe you could speak on that a little bit.
Sure. Thank you, Supervisor. So I guess my immediate reaction to it is, without implementation of a sales tax, based on the budget discussions that we've had, the budget projections that we have that will be presented to the county board at the beginning of October, based on those reviews that have been extensive, we are facing approximately a $17 million deficit to our operations. And so based on that deficit, and without the ability to further draw upon reserves, one-time funding sources that in recent budgets had been, primarily employed to bridge that gap and to get us from one budget year to the next budget year, that no longer is a viable option without significantly going below our policy for use of reserves. Going below that use of reserves could have detrimental impacts to our ratings and the cost of borrowing in the future. So I bring that all up to say that, absent those alternatives that have been employed in the past, invariably there would need to be drastic service cuts. There would need to be significant unfunding of positions well beyond, the positions that have been unfunded in more recent budgets. That invariably will impact the Human Services Department. We'll be prepared at later meeting dates to address with specificity, what those service cuts would actually look like. But it's fair to surmise, and I think this is at the core of your question, that insofar as there are significant cuts within the Human Services Department, that will impede the Human Services Department to effectively deliver the critical services that it offers to the community that often are in tandem with or supplementing the services that are provided by various nonprofits and other community partners. throughout the area. And so in the absence of that collaboration, in the absence of the services that historically had been provided by the county, even greater burden will fall on those nonprofits, perhaps. Even greater burden will fall on the residents and the consumers who receive those services. In the event that those nonprofits are unable to bridge that gap, which is outside my area of expertise, but I expect that in future meetings we'll have representatives of our Human Services Department who will be able to address it a little bit more detailed than I can.
Thank you, Attorney Lansdorf. Thank you, Supervisor Spencer. Any other comments, questions as we continue to discuss the proposed ordinance? Seeing none, I'm going to move on. Thank you very much. I'm going to move on to number 12. It's our closed session, and this is a part of our meeting that I'm asking due to a closed session. Well, Supervisor Miller reads, I'm asking all those present to remove themselves from the chamber because this is a closed session.
Mr.
So
Chairman,
thank
just
you
a
very much.
reminder that we thank our youth and governance for being here, but they would not be required to return that, right? So thank you. Have a good evening. Mr. Chairman, I would move that the committee go into closed session pursuant to Section 1985 1G of the Wisconsin State Statutes to discuss with legal counsel claims against Racine County, namely 1, Gerald Nutowski, and 2, Mid-Century Insurance Company on behalf of Judith Henkaus.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, yeah, the dates I sent out
First question
was
is-
adding an additional date of the, we currently have scheduled the 15th and the 16th. I had sent an email out asking if we could have an additional time and date for the 17th. Yes, discussion. You're tentative. Okay, I understand, and I opened that up because I want to hear from all the department individuals that have to weigh in about with the sales tax or without the sales tax. Okay, so I wanted to open that up, and it's a long process. You've sat through it before. Everybody here has sat through it before. So I want to. So you're tentative, and I know Jason's tentative. Brett, you are not available, but I'm still going to have the meeting on that day. Wish is not available, so it's going to be us three. You, I, and Jody.
So you have to get.
I'll get the chairman to come. Yep.
Vice Chair.
Or vice chair. Yep. We always got a backup plan.
So my initial question was, we're not meeting for a month.
Yeah, well, I had bumped that meeting because on that day is the 3rd annual Milwaukee Brewer outing with the county. And I talked to Gwen about it ahead of time. There wasn't a lot that needed to be addressed on that day.
Yeah, to date, we haven't received any agenda items, but Chairman Trottier said that if anything comes up that's pertinent for the committee to review, that potentially there could be a meeting before the county board on the 24th.
You're at the baseball game?
Or at the
And
baseball.
expect- and at-
Not,
We'll have
not,
quorum. I mean,
not.
Just checking, that's not a night of a public hearing at all.
it is not. No.
It is not. Not that.
24th is a public hearing,
Yeah,
but not the 18th.
But not the 18th is.
And so if I may, Supervisor Kelly was asking if we added that meeting on October 17th, what the agenda or the purpose of that meeting would be. So the 2 nights, the 15th and the 16th that are already calendared, are for departments to come before this committee and other supervisors who may be in attendance to answer questions about their budget or, defend essentially their budget. And being that we're coming up to a big vote on if there potentially will be a sales tax or not a sales tax, my department, Byron, we're creating 2 budgets. And so it was recommended that there be a 3rd night added so that there can be healthy discourse and it not being 2 nights here until midnight.
Right. Thank you for expanding on that. Okay. I have a first and a second to adjourn. We are adjourned.